The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Welcome to it, Monday. Some thoughts there from a little birdie. Speaking of birdies, Masters reaction by football man turned golfer extraordinaire Jay Moore with us in hour two.
That was good, by the way. Did you plan that?
No, it just happened.
Kind of came to you?
Just kind of happened.
I like that.
The producers brought it in before the show.
He did. I've got cue cards. Yeah. Connor or Elijah take turns, making me sound halfway intelligent.
It just has a big sign with a birdie pointed at birdie.
So Jay's with us, Charlie McBride in an hour, and Mike Schaefer with Husker 24/7 Sports. We'll do a thought from Schaefer on the recruiting weekend for Nebraska. A couple of nice gets for the Big Red. Jackson Carpenter committing on Saturday. Love watching him play ball at Southwest and seeing him do his thing. Tremendous athlete.
You had an inside scoop there, didn't you?
I don't know. I just know that Jackson's big time. Bryson Hayes, also another wide receiver out of Kansas. Nebraska getting him over at Kansas State and KU. You've got Latif, the 2025 target at quarterback. So some thoughts from Schaefer coming up here. We'll have him streamed in about 15 minutes. We'll get the roll call happening in the StreamYard. Always watch the show on the Hail Varsity YouTube channel. Like and subscribe. Do that and be a part of it. So we'll get to your comments as well throughout the show. Hail Varsity Radio Twitter at HVarsity Radio, and wherever you hear us across the Hail Varsity Radio network. Chris at hailvarsity.com is where you can email the show. Pretty uneventful Masters. I mean, Scheffler was incredible, did his thing, put on the green jacket. It was nice. We're less than 2 weeks away from spring football, and Nebraska putting an exclamation point on this 2024 second season. When it comes to the winter conditioning, and then you get to spring, what type of development, what type of steps can be made. We'll have some thoughts there. And Nebraska baseball, big chance tomorrow night against Creighton as they need to get out of this funk. They should have walked away from Rutgers and Tony Soprano land at worst at 2-1. They end up 1-2, and some ball control issues for the Big Red on Sunday, and couldn't hold a lead with a lead on Friday night. They took out the fury and anger on Saturday with a 16-1 spot. So some Husker baseball. But breaking news, Mike Sauter with this, Jacob Padilla with this, Raleigh Worcester, point guard from Utah. Dude, one of our favorite people ever, Craig Smith, former assistant for Tim Miles, has been at Utah, before that at Utah State. Raleigh Worcester, point guard, almost 10 points a contest, played 16 games, had a season-ending injury. So Fred banging the phones, and Nebraska now has a point guard, which is good news. Don't have any news on Fiddler, as things are a bit delayed there. So we'll see if that happens. Still don't have any word on Rink. Is he going to do surgery? Is he going to come back? Is he going to go pro? So still some question marks with Nebraska basketball. The football portal opens up for a 2-week stress test tomorrow for college football. So all that is happening. Connor, I got to ask this. I know it's radio and it's also video, but talk to me, doctor, about that golf shirt. I love it, man. Did a cotton candy machine explode on you?
Well,
it's good, man.
My dad and my stepmom sent it to me, and it may look, kind of cotton candy-ish from afar.
Are they critiquing you on your normal attire?
Maybe.
Come showtime.
A little bit. I have. So this is. sorry, no free shout-outs, but this is a Rowback shirt.
Okay, is that the Go Tigers? Is that the Easy Ed
I think
endorsed?
so.
Yeah.
And so I have a white polo that's Chicago themed. So it's got a bunch of Chicago flag, all that good stuff on it. It's white. From afar, you may not be able to see what's on it. This is actually, I deem this my 999 challenge shirt now because
hot dogs?
It's got hot dogs on it. It's got a beer on it. It's got peanuts. It's got baseball bats. And
So it's
baseballs.
a baseball shirt.
Yes.
It looks like you're ready to go to the club.
On stream, it looks a little more like it's covered in flowers. That's not the case, but it's a baseball-themed polo.
It's high-fat content.
Yes. It's the shirt of the summer, so
I like your shirt too, Elijah. I don't want you to feel left out. What do you got going?
Thank you. This is from actually a Lincoln designer. He used to make shirts. AJ Wiley is his name.
Shout out.
That is a free shout out. He was on my intramural soccer team back in college, so I think I'm gonna give
Good for
him a
you
free
playing
shout out.
soccer willingly.
Also, this company is now defunct. Not that it went under. He's on to bigger and better things. Didn't quite have the time for this, but this was his passion project through late college and into his early career. So he made shirts. I always thought he did a really good job. I am rocking the Kuma wave. So shout out to AJ Wiley, the pride of Lincoln Southwest, for this shirt. It's a good one.
Well, there we go.
I have been looking, though. I saw that there's this brand that has been throwing together like the classic looks of golfers, and they have a collection of Tiger Woods' 1992 Masters shirts. They've gone through and remade them and made them the modern, more dry fit-esque material as opposed to the cottony 1990s looks, and they are good looking.
And can be yours for $79.99.
Look at that.
I see it, and that is quite ugly.
What?
Oh, it's brutal.
No. No.
What is it? Is
horrible.
Are you looking at a shirt?
Can you post up?
That's not horrible.
Oh, it is.
That
No,
one?
that's god awful.
What is on the shirt? I can't see
for
it.
Us, for us roly or polier people, we don't like horizontal stripes.
I was literally this close to ordering one last night.
It might look fine on you.
really
I'll
wish
get
you
punched
did.
in the face for it.
It's funny because
It's bad late 80s rock and roll Andre Agassi tennis gear.
It's great. Okay.
No.
Well, you'll be happy to know instead of buying these shirts last night, which I was very close to doing, I was
You did your taxes.
No, I did the taxes on Saturday. Don't worry. I was 48 hours early. Instead of buying this shirt, though, I went and bought myself a whole bunch of candle making materials. I'm going to be making candles later this week.
So
How do you get... Dude, I know you're consuming sports and you're ready Monday through Saturday, but... let me see here. I'm going to either go make candles in my spare time or dress like it's the late 80s. What are you doing with the candle thing?
I like my house to smell nice, and I was tired of...
we need to get Elijah
They're
more games
so
to ump. He's got
expensive.
too much free time.
Get some incense, bro.
I did work baseball on Saturday and had Jabba yelling at me behind the game. He kept it in check, though.
That's funny.
Before the game, I heard a
That's
very
good.
distinctive...
What are you doing, Blue?
No, before the
You
before
and me
the
in
game.
the parking lot.
We had just finished up with starting lineups, and I hear a very distinctive voice from Jabba say, "Now let's work behind the plate, Blue." And I was planning on it, but other than that, he kept it in check
good.
all
That's
game.
so good.
Thanks for that one, Jabba.
Let's get our shout-outs here, starting 5 with Hail Varsity. NU Grandpa in at 1. Jeff checks in at 2nd. Jeff's like, can't believe we blew a 6-run lead this weekend. Mr. Snitley, part of the Boulder Peace Treaty. Snitley checks in. Not a good weekend for Husker baseball. Hope they play mad against Creighton. I do like what Coach Bolt said Saturday post-game about how the response was there by Nebraska baseball. They took it out on Rutgers but didn't follow through on Sunday. Jacques is in at 4. And NASCAR Eric is in at 5. Good to have NASCAR Eric in. Says, sup, fellas. Black Hills Brennan got his Hail Varsity shirt and mug. Good for you, Brennan. You're awesome, man.
I hate to do this, but I'm with Schmidt on this. That shirt is brutal.
Can you hold it up?
That
Can you hold
shirt
it up to the screen? Yeah, I mean, it looks god-awful. It's purple, it's teal, it's pink.
Oh, my goodness.
While those colors aren't horrible
How young is
together.
Tiger in this picture?
Like 12.
That was his first Masters, wasn't it?
I don't know.
So I think that would have put him at like 19, right?
I guess there's a time and a place for it, but it's not something I would wear.
Oh, no, that made him 17. Excuse me, 17 years old, Tiger Woods.
So Crew is in as the sixth man. Justin checks in. Patrick is here. Mark, a little bit late, but that's okay. We're used to late marks. It's no worry. Sorry there, Cranack. My fault here.
It took me a second to get that joke.
Brandon, and then Montana Husker fan is in. Solid point guard, going to fit in great in Lincoln. That's Montana Husker fans' take on Raleigh going in. So way to be. They're anonymous. We've never had a guy named Raleigh that amounted to anything. But if we ever had a guy named Rowley, sure. Okay, anonymous. Thank you. Tiger Shark Diver is in. Chris looks skinny. Maybe Oprah gave him Ozempic. Wow. My dear God. Tiger Shark Diver. No, this will not be a free shout out because they're a client. They're wonderful people. Lincoln Weight Loss. There we go. So,
the Ozempic.
That was mean.
What a start to this show. We're 10 minutes in. We've hit
10 minutes
nothing of real
in,
substance.
and we've not had people jumping off the Titanic yet. Should we get into some spring football? Let's talk some spring football. Schaefer's coming up here in about 8 minutes or so. So the word is on Saturday's scrimmage goes as follows. Most of the vets held out of Saturday's scrimmage. That is the Giffords, the Polar Bears, the Ties, the Butlers, the Ben Scotts, the Tommy Hills, guys that are in prime position for a second year of high leadership and high productivity. It was for some of the younger players and some of those younger guys that I think performed well, and I did not watch, but made a phone call or two to a couple of folks that got to, and they weren't over the top with anything. It's all measured, but just some news and notes here unofficially. Dowdell and, of course, Emmett had a couple of good runs. Thompson and Shavers continue to look the part at linebacker. Linebacker Bly Hill continues to do things. Nair, the wideout, apparently had a couple of drops early, but then some circus catches, just some wow moments. Can he do the routine thing, though, right, is the question mark. And from a quarterback standpoint, all three quarterbacks continue to progress. You had a touchdown drive by Harburg. You had a touchdown drive by Dillon. I think the thing that folks are pleased with down there at 10th and Vine is just specifically with your young quarterbacks, how well they're taking care of the football. And Harburg's ability to extend some plays and not panic, right? If things get a little hairy in the pocket, his athleticism and mobility, and that is something that you'll absolutely take, fellas, with Nebraska. And with the RPO thing, you just wonder how much conflict with RPO you'll be able to execute and put in front of defenses where you have that role where you've got someone streaking downfield and you put that cornerback in oh no, or an expletive situation where he's got to come up to handle the short dump off or drop back and cover the deep guy. You make the wrong choice, you're going to give up first down yards, or you give up a touchdown or a smash play. So that RPO is something that Nebraska's going to use and use effectively, I think. And the spring continues to be good. A lot of key visitors on hand for Nebraska. As we mentioned, the wide receiver, Bryson Hayes, he really got interested in Nebraska a 3 weeks ago, and because of how Nebraska worked. He loves the fact that guys are getting developed. And the other part of this, too, is it sounds like Rhule had to kind of snap everybody to attention during that scrimmage because it was going a little sluggish. They responded in kind, and all right, you get another scrimmage here later this week, and then it'll culminate with your spring football kickoff at 11 on the 27th. But no news or word of injuries, but a lot of younger players getting the reps, and so far so good for the offense, and it looks like the defense under Tony White continues to really totally refine and be effective.
And the biggest thing to note from this scrimmage, always the most important takeaway, is a lack of major injuries. And And as we're only 2 days removed from that, I don't want to say Nebraska's completely out of the woods there on that, but we haven't heard any reports of anything major. So that's always the biggest thing that you can take from a scrimmage. That's a big win. As for what happened on the field, still early in spring. You didn't want to risk a lot of older guys. It makes you wonder what spring game availability is going to be like here in 2 weeks. Are guys going to be a full go from that, or is it going to be back to the Bo Pelini years of Kinney and Amir wearing their sombreros on the sideline during the spring game, not checking in, not worrying about injury?
Give me 3 looks under duress without showing too much from the quarterbacks. How do they handle those live bullets in front of several thousand?
Well, that's the takeaway from the spring game, because what they're throwing together in these closed-door scrimmages this Saturday, likely next Saturday, those are what's going to be more important in terms of what does fall football look like for you as opposed to what happens at the spring game. Because as you said, when the spring game's here, you don't want to show too much offensively. Defensively is probably going to be pretty vanilla as well. That is more about how do you respond in front of a fan base and kind of that train of thinking. These scrimmages are important, obviously, but at this time of year, health is the number one thing. So that's what it sounds like we got on Saturday. We got some experienced quarterbacks, sounded like they were good. I think that's a win.
It's a win. It's a nice win for a recruiting weekend. It's a nice win for Nebraska to keep chopping wood. Nice win on the basketball court for portal season for Nebraska. What's going to happen with Fiddler? What's going to happen with some of these other names? Time will tell with it. We'll get checked in with Mike Schaefer with Husker 24/7 Sports. Hail Varsity powers forward.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you at Hail Varsity. We're powered by Cornhead Lager, Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Connor Clark, Mr. Mike J. Schaefer with us here from Nebraska 24/7. Schaefer, it is good to see you. Appreciate you giving us a few minutes today and busy recruiting weekend. I got to ask, though, how was Masters Day with Junior? How was the experience?
He was probably as disinterested as I was once Scotty Scheffler just kind of pulled away, and it looked like there was going to be no drama, and indeed there was no drama. So Hudson did not pay much attention. I didn't pay much attention. I'm always disappointed when the Sunday. I want that like 2-3 guys in it, some back and forth shot making. A little bit of, some clenched butt cheeks on some of these putts. Too easy for Scotty Scheffler. Well, he's just swinging free and easy.
You had the moment where it was at 11 where you thought maybe Homa hits it into the water, and you think, oh, maybe there's a chance here before that, and then it kind of goes away, and then Scheffler hits one into the bunker at like 16, and you think maybe, and then he plays a really good shot out of the bunker, and you go, okay, never mind, it's over. There was a couple moments where you thought maybe there's going to be drama, but no, Scotty Scheffler was fine with the putter on Sunday afternoon, and that was about all she wrote.
Yeah, well, Saturday was when you had your drama, where it felt like there was 4 different people that got to the top of that leaderboard, and Scheffler looked like he was falling off of the pace, maybe going to be in a little bit of a walkabout on the back nine, and then he hits his eagle putt, and the rest is just basically history. And Nikolai Hogard went from 7 under to finishing 1 over for the tournament. He's solo leader with 19 holes to, 23 holes to play, and then just completely and utterly falls apart. So tough tournament, tough mental thing, but not for Scotty Scheffler, who's just cruising along. Now he's going to be a dad. Hudson's dad won't be this good at golf.
No, neither's Carson's dad. I had a couple of the wheels fall off moments Saturday, but you've golfed with me, Schaefer. You know that's just part of the experience. So
I know there's usually a lot of trees in the way of our golf shots. That's what I know.
What I love about Schaefer is Schaefer traded in some meaningless wedge for a chainsaw. So whenever Schaefer gets put in jail, he just rips that thing and screams timber instead of 4. It works
an
well.
Open shot. That's all I want.
Well, it's pretty amazing, Schmidt, how you and I only find the golf balls that are magnetically attracted to trees. I don't know how that happens.
We suck. It is what it is. It's fine. Hey, let's talk recruiting, Schaefer. Thanks for indulging us in some golf thoughts. A couple of wide receiver commits for Nebraska. You got Bryson Hayes and also Jackson Carpenter. Let's start with Carp, and I know plays both sides of the football for Southwest, really an explosive athlete. legacy. His dad, Tim, hell of a good ball player for Nebraska. And your reaction to Jackson's commitment and also Nebraska landing Hayes?
Yeah, I mean, the Jackson Carpenter commitment, you obviously could look at it like, of course, his dad Tim played there. He's a Lincoln Southwest guy. This should just be Nebraska through and through. But Kansas really made things kind of interesting and throughout this recruitment. And I think the Carpenters were really intrigued by what Lance Leipold has going on in Lawrence. And I think that Nebraska had to battle a little bit there for somebody that's not too far from Memorial Stadium. But in both of these receivers, I think you're getting a lot of the same player. I think you're getting, Jackson's a little bit bigger at shade over 6 foot, and Bryson's probably closer to 5'10" than he is a listed 5'11", but they're both just dynamic. And I think in each of these guys, the way that they're going to affect the football field early in their career, I think you have 2 maybe special teams aces here, guys that can play in the coverage units, can play in the return units, can do the little stuff. Things that we don't necessarily think about a lot, but then you go back in your head and you're like, oh, yeah. Remember when Mekhi Bayer just completely broke down and tackled that guy at Minnesota, and that led to the opportunity where they wanted to get him onto the field more? This staff loves special teams. That's a way they funnel through to the rest of their roster. And so I can see both, Bryson and Jackson utilizing their speed early in their careers as gunners, as return men, as, special teams players, and then working into that opportunity to be in that wide receiver mix, which, in short order, Chris, this wide receiver room has gone from a giant question mark to there's going to be a lot of bodies in there by the time we get in next year.
Now, Mike, are we sure that Jackson's going to be a receiver at Nebraska? I think that's what he was recruited as, but I look at his frame, listed as an athlete by most recruiting services. Is there a potential for him to be a defensive guy, or do you think offense is the route for him?
I don't know how likely it is that he'll switch over, but the thing is, you can't sit here and be like, okay, he's definitely going to be this, because if there's one thing we know about this staff, if they think there's an opportunity to utilize you in a different way, if there's a way that you can help fill out numbers, if they think your athleticism is going to play up at a position, they're not afraid to move you around. And so, yeah, you're correct in that. I mean, he's being recruited as a wide receiver, but he doesn't necessarily have to stay there. And so how he develops and really how some of these guys look after that first 18 months with Corey Campbell can really kind of dictate where and when they can get on the field and what they could potentially do. But you're right. I mean, Jackson Carpenter is a guy. I mean, he's also just kind of an offensive athlete. Like you could utilize him in different ways. It's not just a pure wide receiver, go and run a slant route, go and run a post, go and run a fly. I mean, you can do some different stuff there, even through some passes at times for Lincoln Southwest this past year. So he's certainly got the athleticism where he can be on the field in a variety of ways.
Mike Schaefer's with us on Hail Varsity Radio. I want to talk about Hayes for just a second here, and just looking at some of the stats, not even yards and touchdowns and all that, but he runs a 4.34 40-yard dash. Now you pair that with just under 1,000 yards and 10 touchdown receptions on 60 total catches. I mean, that combination of skill and then you had the speed on top of it. What can he bring to that wide receiver room this spring, or this fall, I should say?
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be until the 2025
right,
when he would get there. But, yeah, I mean, I think what you'd be looking at is someone who can really kind of take the top off of a defense. Like, he can just go. And, we've seen the videos of the kind of arm that Dylan Raiola is blessed with. And so if you can make a team have to protect down the field, or if you can leak them out on a play action and all of a sudden the safety's burnt and having to try to cover the same ground that he can run faster, you'd love those kind of things in your mind. I mean, I think in a lot of ways he can be what we saw Jalen Lloyd doing for Nebraska last year, not necessarily off of that fake option play, because I don't know how often they'll be running that in 2024 and beyond. But off of those play actions, you don't need a lot of – when you have that kind of elite speed, you don't need that much of a hesitation from those defensive backs for a guy like Dylan Raiola to be able to throw the ball down the field, let you go and get it. And so I think there's some real game-breaking element to that. And similar to, like I said, with Jackson Carpenter, another guy who lined up, he's carried the ball for Mays down there. And so he can be utilized differently too. And that's one thing that we've seen with this coaching staff is that, they want their wide receivers, but they don't just have to be guys that line up and run your normal route trees. Like, they can do some different stuff, and they're willing to do that with them. And I think Bryson Hayes could be that as well. Of the two guys, I'd be really surprised if he played any other position other than wide receiver. I think just with his body size, it'd be hard to see him, really anywhere else. But, as Elijah alluded to with Jackson Carpenter, depending on how the weight comes on and what the explosiveness looks like, there is an alternative where he could be on the defensive side of the ball.
Mike Schaefer is hanging out with us at Nebraska 24/7 at Mike J. Schaefer on Twitter. Schaefer, let's talk 2025 quarterback TJ Lateef. I know that Nebraska not as early in on him as some other schools, but Nebraska seemed to have connected with him with Sat and, of course, the quarterback coach making their way out there. Glenn Thomas, both guys making out there and seeing him perform. And he seems to have, a mutual interest in Nebraska. I know Colorado, Florida State, Georgia in on him as well. What's your feel and read on his style and also, Nebraska and his connection?
Yeah, I think this is a guy he's out in California. He's a guy that Glenn Thomas, I think, can really help Nebraska with here. He's a 4-star recruit on 24/7 Sports and 24/7 Sports Composite. And this would be an intriguing quarterback for Nebraska to add to the depth chart. I think there was a lot of people who wondered how easy it would be to go out and get a quarterback in the 2025 cycle when you have Dylan Raiola and you have Daniel Kalen as part of the 2024, and those guys are going to be there for a while. And yet they've found several quarterbacks that seem to be interested in what they want to do offensively. I think that it helps that you can, show a variety of weapons. I think there's also the aspect of, well, if it was good enough for Dylan Raiola, it might be good enough for me too in this offense. And so I look at, a TJ Lateef, and he was, he had I wouldn't say it was a statistically dominant 2023, but he showed you where he could help out both on the ground and through the air. He's more likely a passer, though. He only ran for 230 yards. But if he just has that threat of running, I think that's more of where this staff and where this program is kind of looking to go. But I think the really interesting thing here is I wouldn't be shocked. He has this official visit set up for the spring game. I wouldn't be shocked if Nebraska is working to potentially get a commitment there, and then you can be done at quarterback. You've got a guy that you can sort of utilize and operate off of as a peer recruiter of, what other offensive players can kind of get a look at. Now, you have that already with Dylan Raiola. And I know a number of the 2025 wide receivers talk about him and have been talking to him as well. And so I think that, that isn't the biggest deal because of what happened last year, but you always like to get a quarterback early in your class because it helps bring the rest of the class along. And then to go and get, like I said, another top, 247 option here in TJ Lateef a year after bringing in 2 Elite 11 quarterbacks. It just feels like Nebraska's doing a nice job really kind of bringing that room along for all of the concern that we have about it.
Mike, TJ seems to be a guy who's a little bit more dual threat than both Raiola and Kalen. So with quarterback recruiting moving forward, is there a mold of guy that they want? Is it a year-by-year basis kind of thing? What's your feel on what type of quarterback Nebraska wants to have to run their offense?
I think they want someone who has the ability to move a pocket, has the ability to scramble, potentially for a first down, but isn't someone that you have to build your offense around in terms of, their legs. Like I think the number one weapon has to be their brain. The number 2 weapon needs to be their arm. And the number 3 weapon is if they have legs that can get them out of trouble when they need it, but you don't have to rely on it. And so, I go back and partly because, for as much as Matt Rhule has been a coach, there's a gap there where he's with the Panthers. And so you go look at what he did in college. I look at Charlie Brewer. He didn't have these massive rushing seasons, but in 2019, he was effective enough if they needed to carry the ball, but they did a lot of stuff off of play action. They did a lot of stuff down the field. They used Tyquan Thornton and some of those wide receivers to attack spaces in the field. And I think ultimately that's what they want to do while retaining the ability that you can't just pin the ears back, pass rush the heck out of this guy. The example I think everybody uses, even though that doesn't really work anymore for the current generation, is you don't want Drew Bledsoe back there. Sure. You want someone to be able to move around a little bit. I don't know, Chris, who would that be if we updated that? It's no longer Drew Bledsoe, who's a slow-footed quarterback in the NFL that just takes a lot of sacks.
Kirk?
Yeah, it seems like it would be, but he's He's not that slow.
No, I know, but that's who. When you said take a lot of sacks, we're up against a hard out here. Can I get 3 minutes? Can I get 3 minutes on the other side?
Sure.
We'll think of some names in the meantime.
Yeah, hang tight. Mike Schaefer continues. It's Hail Varsity, powered by Cornhead Lager.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Couple more minutes of overtime with Mike Schaefer here on Hail Varsity. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Cotter Clark, Nebraska 24/7, Husker247.com, where you read Schaefer at Mike J. Schaefer on Twitter. We huddled quickly, Schaefer, when it comes to unathletic, minimal escapability, sack black hole quarterback. And as good as he is, Stafford's kind of our throwback name we came back with. We texted these to you, but yeah, Stafford's it. You just can't have a statue back there anymore.
Yeah, I think Stafford's a fair one, especially when you consider all the back surgeries and everything else adding up for him. But that guy can still sling it.
Oh, yeah, he's got the arm.
They were very, very close to knocking off the Lions in that first game if they get a little bit of help there. But
what's funny?
He really can't move, though. It is kind of incredible.
I was looking at the stats,
he didn't have to face Aaron Donald at the end of his career.
Stafford was not up there in terms of the most sacked quarterbacks in the NFL last year. I mean, he is half as many. It would be
Fields, right? It's still Fields for the most part?
Fields, because he didn't play in all the games last year, did not reach the top. I think he has the most per game, but the most last season was Sam Howell with 65 behind a terrible Washington offensive line. Bryce Young had 62. And it's a large drop-off to Zach Wilson, Russell Wilson, and Justin Fields, all between 44 and 46.
So basically, if your team was bad, chances are your quarterback got sacked a lot. That's kind of what we're taking away from there.
Jets, Broncos, Bears, Panthers, and Washington football team. I guess they were the Commanders last year.
Can I throw Aaron Rodgers into this conversation or no?
He seems to be too mobile for me.
Well, we'll see what happens after the Achilles injury.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that just because I'm a Bears fan.
No, I get it.
He was really immobile last year.
No, I get it. He had a scooter.
You don't say.
Special teams, special players, special plays. That's from Husker David. Mark checks in with you, Schaefer. When it comes to the backdrop, you need a Vikings lid. Or do you have one?
I can probably make that happen.
Okay.
I can make that happen. We can find something there.
I like the lid now. Before we say goodbye.
Oh, I thought he was talking about like a straight up like a Viking helmet.
I want the old Fred Flintstone thing.
Like the two horns? That's what I was thinking. And now I tied the dots together and went, oh, Minnesota Vikings.
I want Schaef's next video appearance to be with the Fred Flintstone lid on.
We could look into that.
Or a construction hat or something.
If Mike cosplayed a Viking, he could probably pull it off.
Viking, lumberjack. I could probably be the construction worker and the village people.
The possibilities are endless.
Yeah.
Schaefer, we'll get you out before you hang up on us. Christian Jones, what's your feel there?
Yeah, I think Christian's going to take a little while before he makes a decision. I feel like it's going to be really hard for Nebraska not to end up with him. He's got a great relationship with Tony White. He's obviously tied in with several of the guys that are at Nebraska already, and I think that he can be utilized well in that 3-3-5. What makes Christian a really fascinating linebacker is he's not necessarily dominant as a come forward linebacker. He's not just wreaking havoc necessarily with TFLs and sacks. So I think he could do that if they wanted to deploy him that way. Where he is fascinating and where his athleticism shines, he's a really good coverage linebacker. He's a guy that can pick up the running back out of the backfield and actually stay with him. He's a guy that could cover a tight end, further down the field, and you wouldn't lose that athleticism the further you get away from the line of scrimmage. He's someone that, for his size, moves and runs really well. And I think that is why teams that play a more open concept defense are really kind of fascinated by different ways that you can utilize him, because he's a big kid. He can make a tough throwing window for you, or if he can swallow up your running back out of the backfield and you can't get some cheap yards that way, he can be a pretty effective player. And then, oh, by the way, if you do push him forward, I mean, he's strong. He moves quickly. I don't think we've seen the best of Christian Jones as a high school player yet, but I think that coaches are enamored with his athleticism.
And what I think is interesting, Mike, to bring it back full circle, is you look at a guy in Jackson Carpenter, also an in-state kid. He's a little skinnier, but they have a similar frame. That's kind of why I asked the defensive question at the beginning, just in terms of athleticism out in space. I know Jackson's an offensive guy. I just think it's really interesting how those two guys athletically could be similar if Jackson Carpenter fills out in college in a way that makes him a defender, I guess, to use your words. I think that pairing could be really interesting on the defensive side of the ball. I'll leave it at that because I'm not the football coach, and I think Jackson's probably a wide receiver, but I think that's interesting.
I don't think anybody here is a football coach, so you're welcome to have whatever opinions you want.
Schaefer, best to the family. We'll check in again soon. Thanks for making time today, man.
Appreciate it, guys. Have a good one. Enjoy your Monday. Have a good week ahead.
Oh, we'll do. There he is, Mike Schaefer with us. Husker 24/7 Sports Ad, Mike J. Schaefer on Twitter. And, when we're talking Viking hat, I mean, Schaefer could pull off anything, but the Fred Flintstone Grand Poobah hat, they should just sell those. Maybe they do to Viking fans and have the Viking insignia there. Schaefer could probably make a run and take a run at the guy who came out on the Harley during Viking games. They'd blow the Viking horn.
Yeah.
The Viking live dude mascot, but I think he wanted too much money, so they said, see ya. This is a few years ago.
I have nightmares about that horn.
It is shocking to me that NFL teams go, no, this mascot we're paying way too much money to. We need to ship off another $80,000 for Kirk Cousins. Send him packing. It's hilarious to me.
It's not bad.
It's not hilarious because that is somebody's livelihood we're talking about here, but it's funny to me that like NFL teams are penny pinching on a mascot.
Well, don't ask for a crazy number.
What is it? Isn't it Rocky from the Nuggets? He's making something stupid as well because he's been their mascot, same guy for like almost 30 years. He's good. He's really, really good.
And he brings the giant stuffed bear to that lady.
I want to say he actually makes more money than some members of the Nuggets roster. He gets more court time than some of them.
He does.
The same argument for Benny the Bull.
Benny. So some of the 2025 visitors on hand, you had Charles Bass, quarterback out of St. Louis, Dawson Merritt, linebacker from Missouri, of course, Jones there, Carpenter there this weekend, Ike Ackerman, tight end out of Oklahoma, and then you have Sean Hammerbeck. He's a tight end / defensive end, and then some 2026 guys. You have Jaden Messinger, athlete out of Iowa, Will Anderson, Caprice Keith, of course, from Central. I'll make that Bell West, forgive me. Will Anderson from Bell West, the quarterback for 2026, and Jermaine Green, also wideout from Bell West. So some T-Birds repping. So Nebraska keeping an eye on in-state. That's a priority, the 500-mile radius, the 300-mile radius, and then go get some dudes from Texas and California. But the Latif prospect is really intriguing just because he's a guy that, listen, isn't bashful about competing, and also a guy that's not expecting to go in and start right away. But when you have Georgia and Florida State and Colorado in on you early, and then Nebraska comes in, and there's the Raiola factor. Not a deterrent at all, but more so hey, look at this. Thought it was really cool as well with Will Compton and his busing episode, as he was here a couple of weeks ago. Really good clip you should check out. We'll probably end up retweeting it, but he had a sit down with Harburg, and he asked Harburg point blank, what was your reaction when you're the quarterback and here comes Dylan Raiola? And he's like, hey, man, from a Nebraska standpoint, we're on the upswing where guys like a Dylan Raiola who could go anywhere want to come to Lincoln. And it was a sincere response.
And that's about finding the guys in the quarterback recruiting process, that it's more than just their play on the field. It's who they are as a person, as a locker room guy. That's important here.
Hail Varsity Radio is live. Now, back to Schmitty.
Schmitty's a great guy, but he don't have a brain.
And Elijah.
You want me to speak? We're not pointing you yet.
On Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time this hour, Hail Varsity powered by Cornhead Lager, Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Cotter Clark, reminding you to get buckled up. And one of every 3 fatal crashes in Nebraska involves an impaired driver. Why take chances? If you drink or use other substances, don't drive. Impaired driving is deceptively dangerous. A message from the NDOT Highway Safety Office. A lot of good this weekend in the world of sports. One thing that I thought was pretty funny, and sent it to both of you, was Boban intentionally missing a free throw to give the Clippers fans free chicken.
Man of the people.
He is, and he clanked that thing well off the rim, and it was chicken to be had by all Clipper fans. Would you do that? Now, I'm not quite sure where things were at. I know it was towards the end of the game. How bad were the Rockets getting just torched?
They were winning.
They were winning.
They were winning. I think they had like a 7-point lead. But
the last game of the year. It's Boban.
More.
They're not going to make the playoffs.
It's
Boban. Should I also mention that it's Boban? Because he's like the most likable guy in the NBA. That's totally something he would do. That's like right up his wheelhouse.
Well, would you do the same? Or would you just be kind of a WWE heel and just...
I don't think I could ever be as likable as Boban as he is to the NBA, so I'm going to go with no. I'm just going to give him the likable factor. I haven't met a fan that doesn't like him. I think he's just kind of like, he's the big guy who gets a couple minutes here and there, and he's, always happy all the time and treats everybody with respect and plays basketball.
If you're asking me the question, the stipulation was the opposing team had to have an empty trip from the line for everyone to get free chicken. Somebody had to go 0 for 2 from the line. So if you're asking me, could I go 0 for 2 from the line in front of 10,000 people and get them all free chicken? Yes, absolutely. I think the odds are better than not that I'm going to go 0 for 2 in front of 10,000 people and get them all free chicken. So, yeah.
We're just basically going off of skill at this point.
If I'm a 7 foot, what is he? 7'5", 7'4" NBA player in the last game of the season and one that does not matter. And I mean, Boban's pretty much solidified himself as a journeyman. I don't think he's going to be out of the league next season. I don't think he's going to be out of the league next season, though. He's a journeyman. He always finds a spot in a roster. Seems to be a good locker room presence. Fans like him. I don't think he's worried about having a spot to play next year. And I don't think missing 2 free throws also in the last game of the season that does not matter to get the opposing fans some free chicken. I don't think that's going to affect his spot in a roster. So given all the circumstances, could I go up there and brick 2 free throws as well and get everybody free chicken? Yeah, sure. Why not? Let's have some fun with it. Like, I think it's fun.
Now, if the Rockets are playing for A, seeding, or B, a playoff spot, it obviously is a lot different.
No, you can't do it.
The reaction's much different
He might do it not on purpose, but he still might do it. But
I'm glad where his head was at, that the chicken was in peril at the end of the ball game there. And, hey, the dude rocked 13 points, 8 boards, 12 minutes. I once went 1 for 15 at the line at a Summit League tournament free throw contest. Brennan, that's okay because you've moved on from it.
So not only did Brennan clank 2, he clanked 14.
He did. It wasn't quite.
But it wasn't an empty trip.
It wasn't 0 for right, and it wasn't 0 for 15 from 3.
Yes.
Oh, we're gonna straight Delano.
Shout out Delano.
Hey, good for him. He kept shooting.
Yeah,
if he stopped shooting, that means he lost confidence. We don't want
minus 38, I believe, on the old score sheet. Coach McBride's next. Hour 2 on the way with Hail Varsity.
This is Christian Peter. I'm sorry, but the stories I have about Charlie are not appropriate for the public.
The right case of the Mondays. It's Mr. Blackshirt, Charlie McBride, on Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you. It's a Monday with Charlie, Mr. Blackshirt. It's Hail Varsity Radio. Coach Charlie McBride with us. Coach, how's the wind treating you up your direction? How we doing today?
We don't have any wind anymore.
You want some?
We told it to stop, and it did.
Can you come down here and tell it to stop around here?
You have to know how to play defense. I'm not kidding you. Listen, you won't believe what's happening. People are coming back, from Florida and Colorado and Arizona and all these places. They've been hiding out all winter. And asked me if I'll help them put their luggage inside.
What?
I said, no, I'm not kidding you. And I tried to find the oldest guy's age. I think it was like about 70 years old. And I'm looking at myself going like, I got to be the dumbest guy in the world. And the guy from Colorado, he came, not Colorado, it's actually Wyoming, but he came down and he gets on 80 And I said, stop in Lincoln and get some Cornhead Lager and bring it. He tells me he's got 12 bottles of this. He's got Cornhead Lager. He's got 12 of them. Do you think he'd ask me if I wanted one?
Oh,
after
man.
I carried his. He did. So I figured, well, that's the way the world's going now.
That's no good. Hey, Uncle Charlie, can you grab my luggage? Sorry, I didn't bring any for you.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, I couldn't believe it. I really couldn't believe that somebody would have the. I don't have any guts. I wouldn't do it to somebody and say, "Hey, would you help me with my luggage?"
Well, Charlie, it could be a compliment that they're coming to you. I mean, you're talking about someone who's younger than you coming to you and being like, "Hey, you're the man for the luggage." That could be a compliment, depending on how you think about it.
Yeah, well, think harder.
As Uncle Charlie backhands you with the suitcase. Man. Well, you know,
I'll tell you what, I asked one guy, I said, listen, do you have any, he had a liquor cabinet or liquor case. Mm-hmm. And I asked him if he had any Jameson in it. He looked at me like he didn't even know what it was. He said, no, I drink Pop-Off. I'm telling you. I said, oh, God, that stuff will light you up like a Christmas tree.
Well, the stuff that we've got a loyal listener, Scott, always pops by our shows. And we had some gals when we were up at the casino doing the show before the Nebraska game up at Ameristar. And they were on the same wavelength. They don't know each other, but they got us Rumple Mints. You know what that stuff is? Yeah. What is right? Rumple Mints taste like your
Christmas.
Doesn't taste like Christmas, but it's
supposed to.
say the two 20-year-olds in the room. It tastes like mouthwash, Coach, and it just burns. I need to put a little more hair on my chest, apparently.
One lady came here and she couldn't. She went in her garage. She said, somebody stole my car. And I said, Dory, nobody stole your car. She said, well, it's not there. I said, well, your daughter came and told me she was going to take it because she can't drive. The lady that was telling me that she can't drive anymore. And her daughter just came over and took her Audi and drove it back to New York.
Oh, I bet she was pissed. Well, hey, I'll take an Audi. That'd be all right. Coach, it was
Doesn't your son have an Audi?
No, he had one. We had to get rid of it. He's got a Sonata, but he's saving for an Audi. Because, why help with college?
Just got him a mini.
A real quick story. My grandson bought an Audi in Canada. Okay. He paid $33 for it.
Okay.
He brought it down to the United States and he totaled it.
Oh no.
He got $38 for it.
Really?
Well, that's
Yeah.
One way to get it's one way to make a profit.
I can't vouch for that. That does happen.
You get a car from Canada and then it goes.
Well, I didn't get mine from Canada, but I did make a profit.
So. Okay, when you totaled yours?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Well, he bought it from a guy from Minnesota, but it came from Canada.
Gotcha.
Isn't there like international, like if you're taking a car from Canada to the United States in order to sell it, don't you have to pay like additional taxes on it, or is that?
I don't know. Is there a Canadian embargo, Coach?
I thought there was like an importing fee.
Well, just tell him you run a 3.5 and then you got it.
Okay. Love it. I love the 3.5. Let's talk about some football here. This was fun, though, to talk about people treating you like a bellhop. But you being a kind soul and taking care of folks when they get back to the lake.
Bellhop is better than bathroom attendant.
That's true. Coach, Nebraska is gearing up here for the spring game here in a couple of weeks, and sounds like the scrimmage went all right by most accounts, and defense looks good. A lot of the older guys didn't participate because some of the younger guys got more time, and I want to get your thoughts because it's been a talking point from culture and from team leadership. And I want to go back to the Peter brothers and Grant and Jared and some of those guys on the teams that really took Nebraska football to the highest level. At what point did you feel comfortable letting go of the leash? As in, they're running, you're the coach, you're the adult, but they're running the show on defense, as in it's player-led. Was there a moment?
Well, I think, the one thing is you always, all the seniors and the guys that have been around, some guys 5 years and they're doing their 5th year, and they really know what you're doing, and you can see in practice they do know, and that, you really got a bonus there if you're helping the younger guys. I mean, that's really great. And because, it's important that they feel, and I keep saying a part of the team, and it makes you feel even more a part of the team when you got guys that are older helping you, or, trying to make you a better player. And it's like, you're not jealous that they're playing more, maybe sometimes even more than you are, or will play more than you do. But, I think a lot of guys are really interested in winning, and some of them don't realize I'm not going to go play anymore after this year, and I just want to be on a team that, I know I'm going to play, but, we're going to win some games. And they all have a different scenario, and so you really don't know. And I don't know what the coaches are seeing, but I really believe that if you go one or two, maybe even 2 series, and that doesn't take long with your 1s and 2s, you can find out a lot. And if you have 3 scrimmages, I don't know if they have 3, but we had like 2 a week, but, at least. And so it makes some sense to have them, have the younger guys play a ton, because if you're going to rotate, and nowadays it's a little different when they have more team type of thing, on 3rd and long, a certain bunch of guys go in the game, and that's why that's the whole reason that I recruited speed. And we turned down some good football players, but they just couldn't run. And if they can't run, they can't cover. And if and so forth. And so it makes a difference when you start changing in and out, all that stuff. It does get more guys a chance to play, but, you want to win too.
Coach, as we look ahead to this spring game itself, is there value in your eyes? I know you're an old school football coach. That's why we love you. Is there value in your eyes to guys that are a known commodity, guys that played for you a lot last season, in holding them out of the spring game altogether for the benefit of health, making sure guys are ready to go for fall, not risking anything? Is there any value in that in your eyes, or is there too much value in getting guys looks in the spring game, even if you know what you have?
You're going to find out that a lot of young guys play better than you think they do. That's what you find out. You find out a lot of times, guys, when the whistle blows, they're a different football player. Even if they're playing in a scrimmage against each other and this and that, and you see things, during the practice, you're going to find out somebody's going to make some super catch, super this, and things like that. You're going to find out a lot about guys on defense, what kind of hustle they got, what they're really trying to prove. And a lot of them are, have a chip on their shoulder. I know guys that we had that didn't get scholarships. Gary Nelson might be the first one I think of. Is, here's a guy that ended up playing pro ball, and he's tougher than a box of rocks. And I mean, they found out quick. And he came here to the University of Nebraska because he was mad at Coach Osborne for not scholarshiping. And that was his reason. If you talk to him, that's it. That's what it was. And he wanted to prove to him that he was good enough.
Coach, I want to hit on the health part a little bit more, because we were talking about it in hour one about we haven't really heard any injury-wise from the close scrimmage on Saturday, and then you may hold guys out of the spring game. How did you guys go about that when you were around coaching, and were you super cautious about that, or was it really not thought of as much?
We listen to the trainers and the doctors. It's simple.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if they said the guy can play, he can't play. If he can play, he's playing. You know, and a lot of times kids have an injury that they can't hurt themselves worse. I don't know what those are called or what they are. I'm not a doctor, but you know, if you play, you're not going to get hurt. You're not going to get hurt worse. And we want them to play.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got a lot of time in the summertime and a lot of things like that. Now, something else could happen to you, but you know that you don't worry about that. A lot of it, I think that you sometimes you don't want to listen too much to what they're talking about. You know what I mean? Some of them, 90% of them know. They want to play. I mean, even if they're hurt. And that's what the guys you got to be careful of. The ones that say, I can play, and the doctor says, no, they can't. Mm-hmm. They say, yes, they can. And that becomes, an interesting point. Because they are, these kids want to play. The ones that are great players, they don't want to sit around.
Charlie McBride's with us a Monday with Charlie. It's Hail Varsity Radio, the Blackshirt Hour. Coach, I wanted to get your thoughts as we say goodbye on Nebraska and specifically the tackling part of things, and that is something Matt Rhule takes a lot of pride in, just how physical practices are. And you've got Georgia, you've got Bama, you've got Nebraska that's been referenced. Is that going to give Nebraska an advantage moving forward, just how they practice? Not only are guys getting reps all the time, everybody's working, but just from a build-up standpoint, being able to be a tougher football team through physical practices.
Well, I always laugh at one of the first times I went and listened to Coach Lombardi talk when I went up to watch him practice one time when I was at Wisconsin. He said, believe me, it's still blocking and tackling. Mm-hmm. And that's how he started his clinic out. And, he said a lot of people don't believe that. They want to be rocket scientists and, do all this and that. But when it comes down to really playing, it comes down to blocking and tackling. Mm-hmm. And I think tackling defensively is number one. Believe me, I go back to guys that I'm proud. They were good before they got there. They were good coached in high school. Kids like Mike Brown and some of those guys that lead the team in tackles. And, you go way back and you find out Cleet Pillin, he's a guy that, a lot of people don't give him credit for. They give him credit for the governor. But this guy's a defensive player of the year, and the all Big Eight or the Big Seven, maybe then. I don't know what it was. They call them everything different every year. But that goes to show you, some kids really take pride in how many tackles they make. And so it takes a lot of concentration, and especially open field. Mm. Open field tackles, and people don't think a defensive lineman is in a position to make an open field tackle. They are. If you're in pursuit, you have cutbacks, and you're in the right angle, you're going to make an open field tackle.
Coach, we'll get caught up here next Monday as we get closer to the spring game, and let us know if you need any help with the luggage. All right.
No, just send a couple of bottles of, Cornhead on. I'll be okay.
Well, we will be thinking of you. Yes, we will do that. Got your address? We'll send it your way. How's that sound?
Okay. I'll talk to you later. Thanks for having me, guys.
Appreciate you, Coach.
Okay, bye.
There he is, Mr. Blackshirt, Charlie McBride. Matthew, good question. We didn't have enough time to get it in. We'll carry that over to next week when it comes to the hybrid defense, how that compares to the 90s defenses. We'll make sure we ask Coach next week when we have a little bit more time. Jay Moore's with us. Blackshirt Hour continues on Hail Varsity.
All-State, 2-year starter, and rush in for the Big Red and NFL vet.
Is Dudeness or Duder or, El Duderino if you're not into the whole brevity thing.
It's Blackshirt Jay Moore with Hail Varsity Radio.
Blackshirt Hour rages forward with Hail Varsity Radio. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Blackshirt Husker NFLer. Co-host Big Red Wrap-Up, Jay Moore with us at JMoore44. Jay, you got out on the course this weekend. Did you have play that resembled green jacket worthiness?
Unfortunately not. We're still a little bit early in the year. Had some good things. A lot of good shots. Just can't get the ball in the hole. So need some more birdies.
So you were kind of like Morikawa on 11, maybe, like a good day other than a couple shots.
Yeah. That's fair to say. Yeah, I just need to have plenty of good looks. It's just kind of, like I said, early in the year, just trying to get the feel down of everything. But no, I'm just happy out playing and being healthy once again. And so no, it's nothing better. When we played Friday afternoon, then watched golf afterwards, and then played Saturday morning, watched golf afterwards. It's my favorite time of year when weather cooperates, which is hit or miss, obviously, this time of year in Nebraska. You get out and play, then watch the Masters. There's nothing better. Even Sunday, we had a soccer game on Sunday afternoon, and it's pretty comical. Myself and two other dads on our phones the whole time, just having live coverage of the Masters on. So, no, it wasn't as eventful as other Masters have been, and maybe other people had wanted. But I tell you what, I'll take the Scotty Scheffler win because I picked him in a couple pools. So he won me some cash on the side.
It's all about the Skittles. I like it. Jay Moore with us. Were you able to play off the dual responsibility there for youth soccer, which is just, well, let's be straight, can be agonizing and look like you're being a great dad and paying attention. All right, great pass, nice save, wonderful field tackle. Or was it just kind of one of those head nods always?
Yeah,
2 seconds up, 2 seconds back to the phone, 2 seconds up.
Yeah, I had it on my phone, but I had trouble getting service, so I kind of just relied on the other two dads, but we were both just watching it. It was an eventful game. It was a 5-2 game, but obviously I'm not a soccer guy, so just there to support my son and everything, and I want him to do well. But I think and my wife is well aware that this is the one time of year that Dad gets to watch golf all day. This is the one time of year. Even with some of the other majors, it's not quite as important. They know. We had pimento and cheese sandwiches at the house. Like it's go time when the Masters is on. It's full support, full commitment from the family. They understand that it's my favorite event to watch. So no, it was fun. It was just kind of comical, and we weren't the only dads there, paying attention to their phone watching golf. There was multiple other guys looking at their phone. But it's always a Monday after the Masters is always a very sad day when you have to delete the app from your phone. Always hate it. Love adding it, hate deleting it.
Well, Jay, a thought with you on Scheffler's win and what it means for the rest of the majors. Can he keep this pace up? He's just on a tear.
I think he can. His ball striking's always really, really good. And then weeks that he putts average, to be honest, he wins. He rarely makes mistakes. He's so mentally tough. He never gets too high, never gets too low. Just knows when he makes mistakes, it doesn't affect him too much. So I think he's going to have, with the three other opportunities this year, with the PGA next and at Valhalla, and then the U.S. Open being at Pinehurst, and then I think the British is at or the Open Championship, as the correct term is, I think, at Troon. So he's going to have opportunities. He's going to be the betting favorite. for all three majors. He's the first time. I think this is the first time that world number one, or he was a betting favorite, has won the Masters. I think since Tiger was, 01, 02 ish. So he's on a heater, man. And the only thing that could potentially derail, I mean, he's about to have a kid. We all know how that works, but you can alter your attention a little bit, but and potentially some focus on his end. But I think he's just in a great spot mentally. Ball striking is elite and just top level. And like I said, if he has a decent week putting, he's not going to get beat. He just doesn't hit. He doesn't hit too many bad shots. He always is. I mean, the guy hasn't shot an over par round in like, I don't know the date, but it's damn near it's been like a year since he shot an over par round. I mean, that's just crazy. All the events and all the tournaments that he plays in, that he didn't have one over par round, just one off day. The guy is just, he's on another planet right now.
Jay, with Scotty getting that second Masters win, it's his second Masters win, and I think in only 5 appearances. It puts him among a pretty elite group just in terms of how young he is. I mean, just the fact that he's won it twice, and you look at how young he is, 27 years old. Are we looking at the potential face of golf for the next 5 to 10 years with just all the success he's had? Is this a guy on a heater? Is this a guy that you think can sustain it and can become a guy that is one of those remembered names in golf? One of those guys that for the next, as I said, 5 to 10 years, we're talking about as the number one guy?
Potentially. I think right now you'd have to say yes. But I think what also makes Scotty so tough right now is golf's not everything for him. That's what makes him so good, is he knows, and he's kind of answered those questions in the press. He's a very spiritual guy. Mm-hmm. So he's referenced that numerous times. And he said once their first kid's born, golf's gonna be about 4th or 5th on the totem pole. So I don't think golf defines him, which is what makes him so. It kind of takes some pressure off of you, because you understand. Yeah, you want to do well, you want to compete, and you want to win. But if you don't, ultimately you're still a good person, a good husband, a father, a man of faith, which is very important to him, and it should be to everyone. So that's my only thing is, yeah, I think for the time being he will be the face of golf, but I also see him just being like, you know what, I've made my money, I've played my golf, I've done it, and I just want to go, maybe be a dad. But I know deep down he's a competitor, but that's the only thing I could see him potentially derailing, his performance or his career, other than a fluke injury of some sort, is, man, golf's not everything. I want to be a dad. I'm tired of being away from home from my family. I want to watch my kids, play sports, and I want to support them. So that's about the only thing I could see him really taking him on a different path to where he is on now.
A thought before we flip over to football on Tiger and really Phil, both of the greats that are getting up there in age, and they didn't have the Masters experience they wanted. I thought Vern and Tiger's handshake was really cool, because it was Vern's last rodeo at Augusta and Tower 16. But what's your reaction to two guys you and I grew up watching and going, wow, a lot of weekends? Yeah.
Well, Vern's, this is his 40th Masters that he's called from the 16th green, and so many great calls, whether from Jack back in when he stuffed it there, was in 86 when he won the Masters, and then obviously Tiger's chip in 05 against DeMarco, in numerous other calls that he's had, and just special moments. And then Tiger, when we chatted last week, I thought making the cut was going to be a big deal, and he did make it. Obviously not play very well on Saturday, but those conditions on Saturday were brutal. I don't know what the scoring average was, but obviously it was well over par. But for him to shoot 1 over par in 36 holes and was still right there in it through 36 holes is something. It's a lot, man. That golf course, I've been there. It's hilly. It's one of the hardest walks in golf. He had to play 23 holes in one day. He's 48 years old. With all the injuries and surgeries he had to do a lot of recovery and getting his body prepared to make really good golf swings on a really hard golf course. So, and he's in 24 straight, cuts made at the Masters. I think that took over for Freddie Couples for the most Masters cuts made in a row. So I don't think he talks. He likes where he's at afterwards. He says he's going to try to get ready and prepare for the next three. It's just playing 4 straight days of really good golf is going to be hard for Tiger. I love his competitiveness. I love the fact he's going to try to get him ready. But, man, just trying to get your body to where it needs to be as a 48-year-old to compete at that level nowadays, it's tough when guys are 24. The Ludwig Obergs and the Scotty Schefflers and all these young kids are out there that, they're fresh as a rose, and their bodies are made to do this for 4 straight days and week in, week out, where Tiger can't do that anymore. So, but overall, it was a great week. Favorite time of year. I've obviously said it, and as long as I'll be happy if Tiger can play in every Masters and compete and not have to withdraw. I think that'd be a win for the golf community and going forward in 2024.
Jay, one of the cool parts here as we wrap with golf, we'll flip to football here in just a second. One of the cool parts of Tiger's weekend, though, was him playing with the low amateur Neil Shipley. Mm-hmm. And I want to turn it over to you, Jay. If you could pick your playing partner, living or dead, active or inactive, is it Tiger? Who would you pick as your playing partner in a weekend like that if you got the opportunity?
Oh, man, you'd have to be Tiger. I mean, just to make the cut, he was only amateur to make the cut. So that's a huge deal. But then you get paired with Tiger in the final round and beat him. I don't know how you draw it up any better. Maybe I think Neil Shipley, he's an Ohio State guy. Maybe, mm-hmm. Jack Nicklaus, obviously being an Ohio State guy, that's someone else you'd like to get paired with in his prime. But I can't think of anyone better than Tiger was in a competitive round like that. Now, if we're out there, having a good time, having cocktails, I think I might want to be paired with someone else.
John Daly.
Mm-hmm. A lot, a Max Homa or a Shane Lowry. Some guys that like to get amongst it a little bit out there and gamble and have a few pops. I might change my mind on that, but yeah, you're playing the final round of the Masters as a low am and you get paired with Tiger. No, that's dreams. I mean, I feel like I've had dreams of playing with Tiger at Augusta before, but I'm just not good enough to actually make that happen.
We'll get Tiger's comment if he's dreamed of playing around with Jay Moore. Jay Moore is with us, Blackshirt Husker NFLer, Hail Varsity Radio, and we switch a pretty eventful scrimmage Saturday, and Rhule said, look, we're just trying to assess right now. So you had a lot of older guys that were not part of it, but more so kind of coaching their young players, your young teammates on. Pretty good day for the quarterbacks. Defense looks ripe and ready. Some good moments in the run game. So all in all, pretty decent. Now I'm sure the coaches want it to be better. They're always striving for greatness. But I want to get to your thoughts on that transition point and knowing when to, because it's talked about a lot, and some folks and fans may roll their eyes at the leadership topic and culture and all of that. It's a talking point, but it's something that is only seen by the 11 dudes in that huddle or the 11 guys on the defensive side of the ball in some crunch time moments. And when you hand those reins over, the team better be ready to be player-led. And I wanted to get your take on just that process of getting to that point, Jay, because do you think it is truly worth more wins when it comes to those devils and details? Because that's what's kept Nebraska away from a 7, 8, 9-win season multiple times. Is it going to be different this year with these group of upperclassmen?
I think no matter what, I think that's always you got to be very detail oriented to win at this high level, and to win close games. You have to be deep into the details, and that comes from all three phases. It's always going to be a turnover issue on offense. It's going to be, how successful are you on first down to get yourself ahead of the chains, to kind of put yourself in a second, and you don't know, you could call whatever, and the defense has no clue potentially. You could look at hidden yardage and special teams. That's small detail stuff that matters, and that also goes back to offense and being successful. To move the ball, to get a couple first downs. So if you do punt, you're punting from maybe your own 45 or 50, pinning the opposing team deep, getting points when you need to get points. Defensively, same thing, winning on first down, getting the offense into second and third in predictables, winning the turnover battle, being good in quick change scenarios. And Nebraska defense was elite in that area last year. They were fantastic in quick change scenarios. So there's a lot. I mean, you could do a whole radio show on how detailed you need to be in this type of football. But also it comes to finding coaches or your leaders on the field, because there's only so much you can do. Your coaches can only do so much on the sidelines. You have to have guys. I think this is the biggest thing in college football, and I think this will help. I know they're getting the communication systems in the helmet. I don't know if they're able to have iPads or whatever like the NFL has on the sideline. I think they're eventually going to get that way. But in college football, when you don't have that kind of stuff, your players have to be able to communicate at a very high level. You have to be able to communicate what you're seeing on the field from an offensive perspective, a defensive perspective, or a special teams perspective, and what the opponent's doing to you. Because, you can see the coaches up in the box are communicating with the coaches on the sideline. This is what we're seeing, but how are you seeing it as a player? And can you communicate it to them so that everyone kind of understands when it's pure chaos? I mean, it's chaos on the sidelines. Guys are huffing and puffing. You're tired. You got multiple people. You got trainers coming around, all this stuff. But to be able to communicate at a very high and stressful level, I think that's what makes really good teams get over the hump. You got to be able to communicate exactly what you're seeing, what you felt, tendencies, what you're seeing. Hey, I noticed the tight end the tackle was leaning a little bit and they ran away. I know the tight end was split out wide and they did this. The guard was leaning. I could read the guard. All these little things you have to communicate and to your position coach, and then obviously to Tony White and the defensive coordinator, so they might be able to adjust in-game scenarios from what they're calling. But also that just provides more trust to what as a player, and they might say, hey, if you see that, hey, change it as a linebacker. Hey, Stephon Thompson, I don't know who the linebacker could potentially be this year, but change it. You see this? Hey, I got full trust in you, man. You can check into something else. Isaac Gifford, you see this? Hey, man, you communicate this well on the sideline. Change out of it. Change the coverage. Do whatever it might needs to be to put the defense in a great scenario to win on that down in that situation. So it's a lot. There's a lot of things that go into it, but communication is very, very important. I don't think it gets discussed and talked about as much, but that's what makes teams. If you have great players, and I think Nebraska has really good players already, but to really get over that hump, and this is defensively, offensively, whatever it is you have to be able to communicate what you see on the field to the staff on the sidelines. Now, if they have those iPads, like they have in the NFL, the Microsoft, like they have in the NFL, you can pull it up. You can say, listen, you can circle things. Hey, you can clearly see what's being seen, and you can talk about it. But until that actually happens, the communication level has to be at an all-time high to be really good and to have success in the field.
Jay, before we get you out of here, just how hard is it to replicate that crowd noise in order to get your practice, that communication down on the field? Like, is it possible to replicate the noise of Memorial Stadium on a 3rd and 4 in the fourth quarter in a one-score game? Is that even possible, or is that just something that you have to experience to be able to understand?
Yeah, it's kind of doable. You kind of have that constant static noise going. throughout the stadium or in the Hawks or wherever you may be. It's so hard to create in-game scenarios because it's the pressure. There's consequences. In practice, you can redo the rep, redo the play, redo the period, but you can't do that in the game. I mean, there's consequences. So you got the crowd noise, you got the pressure or the pucker factor, right, to perform well, and then you also have to during the game, your adrenaline, everything's going so much, you get tired a lot quicker. So it's hard to factor all those kind of things into practice. So you try to do it as close as possible, but it's nothing replicates it until you do it. And that's why I've said it on here and many other times, you go through spring ball, you go through fall camp, and you know what you got. You have a pretty good understanding, but you really don't quite know until you actually play that first game. And that's the greatest teaching tape and coaching tapes after that first game, because you could try to simulate it and do everything you want to during the week and during practice, but you really just don't know until you go out and play another opponent. So it's the process of getting there is a grind, is fun, but that's why usually the greatest leaps, are from week 1 to week 2, because you have that coaching tape and you're able to coach off of a different opponent, handling the emotions, handling the stress, handling all those different factors that just don't quite happen, during a normal week of practice.
Jay, a quick thought, A&M, Boulder, what's the craziest environment you've had to handle those moments in?
Yeah, I think on the road, I think A&M, we won down there my senior year. That was a awesome game, come from behind and sealed the North that week. At Boulder, I mean, my junior year, we played them, upset them there. They kicked out the student section for throwing stuff on the field. That was a fantastic scene for us. We had the Reels Restore the Order T-shirts on underneath the pads that week, so that was a fun one. Oh gosh, there's going on the road it's always a great environment. It's still nothing quite like Memorial Stadium, but if I had to pick probably one, I would say A&M, just because there are 100,000 people going, just louder than hell. So I think the A&M was probably the best in-game, on the road college experience I've been a part of.
Jay, we'll check in next week. Appreciate you much.
Yeah, thanks, boys.
And now,
back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time, good stuff from Coach McBride, from Jay Moore, the Blackshirt Hour. Find it on the podcast, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play. You can also watch and rewatch Hail Varsity YouTube. Subscribe there. Like it, tell a friend. Also, Hail Varsity Radio, Twitter at HVarsity Radio. Good comments from Matthew and Drewy and Dion in more thoughts about Harburg. And again, that post from Will Compton in his snippet sit-down with the bussin' tour that happened. We'll get plenty into Nebraska, Creighton tomorrow. Michael Brunt's going to be with us. Big thanks to Mike Schaefer today with Husker 24/7 to talk recruiting. Big weekend for the Big Red. A couple of wideouts in for 2025. We'll dive into Nebraska baseball tomorrow. Mitch Sherman also joins us from The Athletic. Now, this has been on my mind since you unveiled it, the candle making that you're into. And listen,
I'm just starting. Okay.
Okay. Well, we're all into what is my hobby? Probably golf.
What scent are you going for?
Yeah, that's it. I said flavor, and he about slapped me. What my golf game, Tuck, thanks for asking, is garbage. I lost a lot of money to Nate the Great and Iowa Russ over the weekend. They both played like they were blindfolded comparatively to what they usually do.
And they still kicked your ass?
Oh, brutal. It was so bad. It was so bad. Finally got pissed at one point on 17 and just hit out of the sand and hit it over a road. We exercised the demon of that golf ball. Teed off well. I putt horribly. Just was even within 3 or 4 feet. Was not good. So yeah, I'm not good, but I enjoy my time. There's my definition. Back to candles.
Uh-huh.
What spurred this? other than you're wanting to save money from buying
that's
the oatmeal cookie or vanilla or whatever. And I'll say this. My wife burns a candle all the time.
Yeah.
Always. Right? It's crazy. So I'll probably buy one from you. I'm not mocking or making fun of you. I'm just saying, all right, some dudes get into archery. Some guys, work on the Red Dragon, their non-street legal vehicle in their garage. Uncle Andy's got a 68 Camaro. Y'all have different hobbies. You're getting into candle making.
Yeah. So this began last night.
To be fair, you're still an umpire. I'll give you that.
That's a side hustle.
I know you get paid for it, but
it is a bit of a hobby.
It's an art
as well.
form.
It's with the amount of work you have to put in.
Come on, Blue.
It is a bit of a hobby, but essentially the Masters wrapped up last night. My roommates, they're stepbrothers. There's a lot of lore behind that. If you listen to the show, you've probably heard some of it. Anyway, they go off and they have their Sunday family dinner every single week. So it leaves me alone on my couch with
reading
nothing to do.
Reading is a hobby. Says Moonbot.
So basically, I pulled up a little mini YouTube, I'm not sure what you call it, a mini documentary, 20 minutes long, about the history and importance of candles. Which I don't know how
revolutionary or
the entire history of the different materials that were used and the importance, taxation of candles through the years, which
they were big. Light.
But the importance of them as light and how they were taxed through history. I was watching all that and I'm like, well, I wonder how expensive it is to make candles nowadays. And I looked it up, and for the same price as I ordered candles a couple weeks ago, because at my house we also burn through a lot of candles, keep everything smelling nice. I was like, I could buy 10 pounds of wax and all the materials to make all these candles for the same price as buying 3 online. Let's give it a go. So I have mango scent on the way, as well as creme brulee scent and some sandalwood. So I'm going to see if I can make a concoction of those 3 to find something, or maybe 2 of the 3 that works. We'll see. It's delivering later this week.
We've got to get Todd a Hail Varsity tank. We'll work on that, Todd. Talk to you tomorrow at 4. Thanks.